They're stone's throw away.
Okay.
That's good. Hey Jeff, how are you? How's it going?
Are we ready to go? Mine's not on.
You just pick it up in the app. I got it. Okay.
On the video.
They can hear. You got to speak loud enough so they can hear you, and then everyone else can hear you.
Oh, so this doesn't. Oh, okay. Are we all ready?
Yes.
Okay, welcome to the Rye Town Park Commission meeting of April 18th, 2017. Please rise, and will Rick Busen and Jean Ceccarelli both lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Where's the flag?
Oh, over there.
I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. For those of you familiar with the commission, we have a couple of new faces. As you know, Mayor Pilla chose not to run for re-election, and the new mayor of Port Chester is Richard Fritz Falanka. Unfortunately, Mayor Falanka had a previous engagement, and sitting in for him tonight is Jean Ceccarelli, a Port Chester trustee. Mayor Rosenberg also could not attend tonight, and sitting in for him is Rick Busen, a former trustee in Rybrook, also a former Board of Education member, and I believe the current chair of the Recreation Commission. So since the park is all about recreation, I think Rick is a good sit-in. Roll call, please, Debbie?
Commissioner Killian,
Here.
Commissioner Falanka,
Jean Ciccarelli, here.
filling in, thank you.
Filling in.
Commissioner Sack, Commissioner Salanitro.
Here.
And Commissioner Busen, Acting Commissioner Busen filling in for Commissioner Rosenberg.
Here.
And President Zuckerman.
Here. May I have, has everybody read the minutes of 2:16 and 3:21? And if so, are there any additions, corrections to the minutes?
I only have one, Debbie. I didn't notice this till today, but my name is spelled wrong in all of them, which I don't care if you change it, but it's 2 L's instead of 1. But other than that, you don't have to, I
Well,
think
that will
we
be
can approve
changed.
the meeting. We can approve the minutes.
As amended, may I have a motion and a second to approve both sets of minutes?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We have set Sunday, May 21st, for the annual community conversation. Do we have a time for that, Debbie?
9 a.m.
9 a.m. Okay. Is there any objection to that?
No, it goes like 2 hours? About?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or however long people want to talk.
You'll stay around
and-
all day.
I will stay around,
Hopefully it'll
of
be-
course, especially if it's a beautiful beach day. All right, I don't think we need a motion for this. Any objection to setting May 21st? Then that will be the day at 9 a.m. for the community conversation. Appointment to the Restaurant Steering Committee. Mayor Pilla was the town representative, or the commission representative from the town to the Restaurant Steering Committee, and I spoke to Mayor Falanka, and he has agreed to serve in Mayor Pilla's place. Is there any objection? Seeing none, why don't we have a motion for that? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Point Fritz.
All in favor?
Aye.
And now we come to the good part. Report from our NYU Wagner capstone team. As I think everybody knows, the Capstone team has been studying park operations and doing surveys for the last, I don't know, 6 months? Is that close enough or more? About. And they are here to make a presentation. And
Should we move
I
into the
think,
audience?
yeah, I think we'll move that way so that everybody can see the screen. Okay? Introduce yourselves when you get up there, please.
All right, well, good evening. We are the NYU Capstone team that has been working on the study of Rye Town Park over the last about 7 or 8 months, since October. And we're here to present our findings on the study and some recommended next steps as well. So this is our team. I'm Jenny O'Connell. We also have Chelsea Brandon, Barbara Ioannidis, and Colin Murphy. We are 4 students who are completing our Masters in Urban Planning this May in a month, and we are doing this capstone program, which is part of our curriculum for second year or for final year students. It's basically a year-long program. Students are matched with a client and put to work doing a public service project. So this is a project that was presented to us and that we've also selected. So we had a couple of choices and we chose this project because we felt really excited about sort of the question at hand. And this project was completed with a lot of help from many, many people. Of course, staff from the town of Rye, the Rye Town Park Commission, and then a number of other people who also lent invaluable support to us over the last 8 months. So back in September, when Debbie Reisner came to present to us at NYU, this was the question that she posed to us. How do we steward and maximize access to the social good the park provides while working to protect it? So the first imperative was to sort of unpack that quote and consider the sometimes very tricky balance between park use, so people coming to and enjoying the park, and environmental quality, which is important but can be jeopardized with heavy use if care isn't taken. And we also conducted this study with an understanding that there's a need for a long-term mission, a vision, and a strategic plan. We sought to complete a couple of key tasks through this study. First, we wanted to get a hold of what the park is like currently. We wanted to understand who the park's key stakeholders are, and we wanted to investigate some best practices that we can apply to Rye Town Park moving forward. So this is a brief timeline. There's a lot on here. It's a little bit messy, but some key points. We kicked off this project back in October. In the time since, we've spent a lot of time in Rye. We've engaged with community members, the commission, town staff. Some of you were in attendance at our public meetings in March. Many of you took our survey. Many others of you have also engaged with us, on the phone and via email, and we are really thankful that all of you have done that. So we're here today to present the findings, and at the end of April, we're going to be submitting the final report, which will have our final recommendations, as well as all of this sort of background information as well. So I'll move through this part pretty quickly since you're all very familiar with the park, but we want to set a little context before jumping right into the findings and our analysis and recommendations. So here we have a map just of New York, Westchester County, and in yellow, town of Rye and Rye City. So a little history of the park for anybody who doesn't know it or has forgotten it or it's a little fuzzy. This Rytown Park was established in 1907 as a public park, and prior to that, it was privately owned by Andrew Halstead. And there were a number of shacks on the property when he was the owner, and people would come and rent them for the summer and come up from New York City or from other places in Westchester County and enjoy the sound the way that people do today. So a little bit more context for you. The park is obviously in Rye City and is surrounded by primarily low-density residential. It has 17 structures, 11 of which contribute to the historic nature of the site. And as you know, these buildings are in need of some renovation and maintenance, as are some of the other park features like the pathways and the seawall as well. Throughout this process, we worked really closely with a lot of stakeholders, many of whom are residents of the city and town of Rye, but some of whom are non-resident permit holders, park users, park staff, representatives of local organizations, and town employees. Most of the research that we did came from meetings with all of you, talking to stakeholders, but we also did a lot of background research as well to collect data about the area and the park. So these are some of the data sources that we used in addition to some of the park visits that we did.
Just to go into the finances of the park a little bit, between 2007 and 2014, there was an 18% increase in total revenues to the Rytown Park Commission. During that same period, there was also a 19% decrease in total expenditures and encumbrances. There's, as you can see, a notable increase in revenues and expenditures in 2010 due to a large influx of grant revenue and public spending for roof repairs of the historic buildings. And then from reports from the town of Rye and from the commissioners, since 2015, there has been an operating surplus at Rytown Park. Total public funding during the same period from 2007 to 2014 decreased by 80%. During this period, an average of 56% of public funds were contributed by the town of Rye, while the city of Rye contributed approximately 44%. And again, in 2010, you see a drastic increase in public spending, mostly for roof repairs. All right, so we did a lot of stakeholder outreach throughout this project. Just some clips of some advertising that, we had a lot of help from local news sources, including the Journal News, Westmore News, Rye Record, Rye City Review, MyRye.com, and Rye TV. A lot of press coverage of this, and all of this press coverage helped us advertise both the survey and our public events, and then also disseminated some contact information for our group so people could contact us individually. So as part of our marketing campaign, we mailed out with the town of Rye a postcard to approximately 25,000 households in the city and town of Rye. This postcard was bilingual. Some of you may have received it. So it was both in English and in Spanish. In addition, there were flyers posted all around commercial centers in Rybrook, in Rye Neck, in Port Chester, and then also in the city of Rye. We also bombarded people with emails, people who were on the Rytown Park Commission listserv, also people on the municipal listservs in Rybrook and the city of Rye. And we also engaged many civic groups and local nonprofits, over 100 we attempted to contact, and many of them got back to us and helped disseminate information about the survey and then also about the study in general. And then that's not to discount just word of mouth. We got a lot of referrals, people emailing us because their friends told them to. A lot of people made announcements at, for instance, meetings of the Chambers of Commerce here in this area and at other local meetings. So the survey, as you can tell, it was through all of that, we were able to develop this survey through community interviews and a lot of help from the Rytown Park Commission and from the Town of Rye staff. It was available online for 2 months, from January 30th to March 31st. And there were 47 questions covering a broad range of topics, which included patterns of use, activities and events, programming and amenities, accessibility, environment, financing, and visioning. So we ended up getting a lot of responses, 1,000 responses, which is great. And then also taken in context of the population of the town and city of Rye over the age of 15, it was a 2% response rate, which is very good for just a public survey, public online survey. About 66% of survey responders were female. It's interesting. A little over 50% were age 50 or older. Very few respondents were under age 30. 94% of respondents were non-Hispanic white. And 66% of respondents reside in Rye City, as you can see, and then 34% reside outside of Rye City. 14% in Rybrook, 10% in Port Chester, over 5% in Rye Neck, and then a few in surrounding municipalities like Mamaroneck and Harrison and other places like that. So what's working? Basically, from all of this survey data, the 1,000 responses that we received, we were able to, really hear what people had to say. It wasn't just multiple choice. There were also, I'm sure a lot of you took it, but there were also a lot of opportunities for people to express how they felt about the park in words. They felt that the view is stunning, the access to the sound is amazing, the green space is perfect for everyone to enjoy. It really is just a treasure and a great park in all of probably in all of Westchester. It's pretty unique. That being said, there is significant room for improvement. A lot of people had a lot of opinions about what could be improved at the park. 34% of respondents felt that seating options in the park are inadequate. They would like to expand seating options, improve seating. 70% of respondents access the park driving in a car. And many, many people felt that, especially on weekends during the summer, it was difficult parking at the park. Less than 1% accessed the park via public transit, but almost 16% said that they would be interested in taking a shuttle to the park. All right. People also felt that the restrooms, the unused indoor space, and the lack of a playground and a fenced-off dog area, and also just sort of like restaurant improvements and increased trash cans and water fountains were things that they would be interested in. And those are things that we saw countless times, that people were interested in seeing, like maybe voicing these ideas to the larger community to see what everyone else thought about them. All right, so next steps. Over 70% of respondents felt that park funding should be diversified, that funding for the park should come from not just concessions and fees, but also from local taxes and grants from the federal or the state government. A lot of other people felt that charitable contributions, donations, endowments, sponsorships should be factored into the park budget. In addition to that, the vast majority of respondents felt that they would be inclined to visit a restaurant in the off-season. So most people were in favor of expanding the operating season of the restaurant and the food vendors in the park. An interesting suggestion that we found that appeared over and over in comments was that people felt that the vacant space in the park should be rehabbed and utilized as educational space. So and this sort of encapsulates general sentiment about Ryetown Park. This is a quote from the survey. "Our family doesn't belong to any beach or country clubs. Ryetown Park is the only thing we've got. We love it, but would love to see it improved." So people really love this park, but there is room for improvement.
So I want to tell you a little bit about the public events that we held. We hosted 2 events, 2 forums at the Rye Reading Room on the morning of Saturday, March 4th and the night of Sunday, March 6th. And to your left is an agenda showing the format of the forum. And we also hosted an open discussion in Port Chester at T&J Restaurant to facilitate a conversation in a more casual setting. And to the right is a poster that we designed for our outreach. In both Spanish and in English. As Colin mentioned, we did flyering around different areas. We had 75 people who attended these events collectively. Many of the same themes and comments from survey respondents were reiterated at these meetings. However, there were some discussions that led to new findings at the meetings. Some takeaways from the events. Major concerns such as park rules and regulations, parking, littering, payments and fees, as well as the need for an overall park vision. Natural landscape. Landscaping and views of the sound are key draws to the park, and people emphasize the importance of preserving open space as well as the health of the wildlife and the pond, and the desire to plant more trees and to use organic and non-toxic fertilizers. Coastal resiliency was really important. It was expressed the importance to protect resources vulnerable to extreme weather events and climate change, including the seawall and other structures, and the beach from erosion, as well as trees from toppling over, and the need for an official resiliency plan to help protect these resources from future storms. The built environment was another topic. It was expressed the desire for repairing and repurposing the administrative building. Pathways restoration was also another topic to be repaved and better maintained. Restrooms upgrades and to be open year-round. ADA compliance, and a worry of overuse of the historic bridge by cars parking on the green open space. Programming was another topic. There was an overall consensus for the park to remain passive, yet to have contextual programming activities. Requests were made for an addition of amenities such as possibly a dog run or playground or beach chair and umbrella rentals. And in addition, it was a high priority for users of the park to provide healthy and affordable food options. General operations, it was an agreement that there should be greater playland integration while still keeping the park's passiveness, and it was expressed that there might be an opportunity for more fundraising and for park staff to be better equipped to be able to enforce rules and regulations. And overall, the theme that kept on coming up was a tension between serving the local community while keeping it accessible to everyone who wishes to use the park. So we focused a lot of our recommendations based on case study research that we did. These parks that we found are both near and far and have similar features to Rytown Park, from the suburban location to historic designations and waterfront access. These case studies showcase best practices for parks and have successfully overcome challenges or adopted programs we feel are feasible for Rytown Park and align with our outreach findings. So the first case study, we looked at Cordova Sculpture Park and Museum in Lincoln, Massachusetts, because it's a similar size to the open space at Rytown Park, and they feature year-round programming and robust art programs, both indoor and outdoor, both permanent and changing. Access and parking, we chose Centennial Park, all the way in Australia. A feature of this park, their trust created a transportation and access and parking plan that outlines solutions to improve access within the park and integration and management of park vehicles. And this plan focuses on ways to improve their public transportation connections and negative impacts of vehicles to the natural parkland. This may be familiar to some of you. This is Tots Point in Greenwich. PPP is public and private sector partnership model. So this park, as you may know, they have founded a conservancy model, which has proven successful in terms of fundraising and restoration efforts of their historical buildings. And lastly, we looked at Haverstraw Bay Park in Rockland County, and one of their main feature that we looked at was they were able to soften their shoreline and create a more resilient park in FEMA funds, and just by redesigning their shoreline.
So now that you've seen where we've gathered our data from our outreach efforts, from the existing conditions review, from literature review of these reports and case studies, we were able to identify the perceived strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that go along with Rye Town Park and Oakland Beach. So a big focus of our analysis was our SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis is a strategic tool, for those of you who may not be familiar with it, that can help a community like City of Rye and Town of Rye and the Rye Town Park Commission further understand the major issues facing Rye Town Park and Oakland Beach. It was also the basis for the development of our goals and strategies, which will follow. We had several key objectives that we wanted to accomplish with our SWOT analysis, which included establishing existing conditions or attributes of Rye Town Park as they relate to the strengths and weaknesses of the range of programming, services, rules, and regulations, and more. We wanted to document further the external possibilities that may influence the opportunities and threats to Rye Town Park's current and our future programs and services, rules, and regulations, while also assessing and evaluating and identifying the needs and gaps that will ensure Rye Town Park's continued success and maintain its reputation as a valuable community resource. And finally, it informed the development of our recommendations. So strengths are positive qualities internal to Rye Town Park that currently exist and are within the Rye Town Park Commission's control. It's a public good. It provides a place for the community to gather and engage in passive recreation through its existing programming and through self-managed activities like flying kites, taking your dogs for walks, and it builds morale while also positively contributing to the general health of park visitors in the community. Also is a place with natural resources and just natural beauty. It's ecologically diverse, and it provides kind of a tranquil atmosphere to its visitors, especially enjoyed in the off-season. And the historic characters, there's a general appreciation for the rich history that has contributed to this park's longtime success. And finally, a strength is its profitability. You're able to cover the operating expenses with the generated revenues, and in the last couple years there's been a surplus, and this is really uncommon for public parks, which is something that makes this very unique. Weaknesses are less desirable qualities that are internal to the park and currently exist that may impede the Commission's ability to help meet objectives. This includes deteriorating infrastructure, which can contribute to unsightliness, vacant or non-leasable space, and safety hazards. There's also ADA compliance issues, which can exclude certain visitors or prohibit them from having the best possible visit when they go. And limited resources in terms of funding means you can only achieve so much with what you have currently. And finally, the last weakness that we evaluated was limited parking options, which can limit accessibility to users because of capacity, and it also contributes to the deterioration of natural resources like the green space. But the opportunities are great. So there's positive external possibilities that the Rye Town Park Commission and the community could develop for the future. This includes creative programming and off-season activities, as well as unused indoor space that can be activated and leased, and both of these can increase visitor traffic and diversify your revenue streams. There is an opportunity for area-wide collaboration in terms of programming and parking resolutions through collaborative efforts with other surrounding community resources, and the engaged park users can help leverage this engagement to build relationships with all sectors and work to realize the park's potential and achieve the goals and expectations of its stakeholders. But with opportunities come external threats, which can impede the Rye Town Park Commission's control and put some aspects at risk. The current fee-based revenue stream is a single source of revenue, and this can be risky and vulnerable. Decision-making is a topic that came up often and helped kind of evaluate this, because the perception is that the level of transparency can be improved, and currently the way that the decision-making process occurs, it's unilateral, and it's only one part of a commissioner's responsibilities, and so there is room to kind of, I guess, alter that and improve upon it. The extreme weather and coastal threats can create damage to the park and beach and can deplete financial resources that take a long time to resolve. Overuse, especially in the summer, can negatively impact the natural resources, and visitor behavior can become more unpredictable and harder to regulate and enforce. And finally, competing interests with all of the passionate stakeholder groups. There are different priorities, and it's difficult to get unilateral support for a lot of the goals and strategies. So from there, we have our first goal, which was to define a vision. And at the start of our project, we had thought that defining a vision would be an aspect of our report, but during the course of our project, it's kind of taken a different route, and we really wanted to kind of take this opportunity to engage stakeholders and really hear what everyone had to say and how they viewed the park and what they wanted for the park, and we wanted to really focus 100% of our efforts in capturing that and analyzing that for everyone. So some of the strategies that we recommend for this goal of defining a vision is to assemble a task force composed of elected officials, commissioners, civic leaders, business owners, and park users. We also recommend developing a strategic plan in order to help identify the vision, which includes financing and funding structures and opportunities. Establishing a conservancy focused on building and infrastructure restoration can also be a strategy to help with defining a vision. You can leverage private partners and sponsors. This is similar to the Todd's Point model and has a different mission than the organizations like Friends of Rye-Town Park, but both can work collaboratively to help with that. Another strategy we recommend is establishing a partnership with Edith Reed Sanctuary, Playland, and the Westchester Children's Museum. This can optimize opportunities for shared resources and programming. And our last strategy is to increase and sustain community engagement. Adding community representatives to the Rye-Town Park Commission can help keep stability, since the commissioners often change, and it helps with accountability. It also helps to represent the voice of the people who are engaged with the park more often, and especially more often than the commissioners, which, as I mentioned, they have a lot of responsibilities, and the park is only one of many. So our second goal is to improve transparency. We have 6 strategies for this, and we recommend restructuring the website to increase accessibility and reach, which we've seen that the website currently is undergoing some changes. Establishing a direct line of communications to facilitate reservations of the pavilions and other resources at the park. And also you can report comments and concerns through a more streamlined direct line of communication. We recommend automating payment systems for the parking and the fees. Educating the community on the RFP process, which could also include revising such RFP process for transparency and to kind of get more competition involved. Revisiting the park rules and regulations, and also communicating any revised rules and regulations. And finally, identifying the relationship between park regulations and local laws. The idea of enforceability came up a lot, and we recommend, determining what the level of enforceability of the park rules currently is, enabling and training the park staff, and developing a protocol for rule enforcement.
Our third goal overall is to improve accessibility. So we have 7 strategies here. The first, we would like to see a parking plan developed, which would help with figuring out where cars should go and how many cars should be parked where, all those logistics. The second strategy is to increase awareness of parking and transportation alternatives, because there are alternatives currently, but a lot of people aren't aware of how to get to the park other than using cars. Third strategy is to establish a designated drop-off area. You know, in the age of Uber and Lyft and all the other car services, a designated assigned area would be helpful. The fourth strategy is to consider alterations to parking regulations on local streets. So we're not saying that cars should be parked all over the neighborhood, but we are suggesting that in certain areas to look into to maybe altering some regulations there. The fifth strategy is to define and enforce parking capacity limit. A lot of people were concerned that on some days more parking is allowed than other days, so maybe setting a strict limit on cars would help people know how much parking is allowed. And that goes with repaving and restriping parking lot. A lot of areas can be improved. And the next one is to enforce a delineated area for parking overflow on the lawn, which is self-explanatory. And the sixth strategy is to seek out funds to increase disability access. We know this is a high priority for the park, but maybe some funds will help spearhead this initiative. And the seventh strategy is to hire a consultant to recommend ADA upgrades, because it's more than just one area that needs improvement or could use improvement. The fourth goal, ensure coastal resiliency. Strategy one is to establish a resiliency plan. This is a high priority for a lot of park users who are concerned about future storms that might hit the park. The second strategy is to develop an emergency management plan in case for the people in the park, and as well as people who are in charge of maintenance, to understand how to set up the park for the least amount of damage possible. And the third strategy is to implement improvements to landscape architecture, and this also could include planting native species that could soften the shoreline and areas within the park that are prone to flooding. And the fourth strategy is to restore the seawall to prevent further damage, as well as from an aesthetic point.
And so our fifth goal is to invest in general improvements. So we've got 8 strategies here, and it's sort of just a hodgepodge of different things that we got from the survey and from the public events that people really were very passionate about. First one we heard many, many times was to increase the number of trash receptacles in the park and increase trash pickup during peak hours, especially during the summer, just those hot days, the garbage cans can get pretty full. Another recommendation would be to establish a fenced-off dog run. There were a lot of people who were both worried that dogs were wandering into areas of the park that they should not be, and then also people who were walking their dogs who would like to walk their dogs at other times other than from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. in the morning. So we are recommending maybe establishing a fenced-off dog run area, a small area in maybe an area of the park where people don't usually spend a lot of time. Another thing that we heard, especially from the survey, was that we should install more drinking fountains at strategic locations throughout the park. Improving, as I mentioned before, improving and expanding seating options. Enhancing lighting. People were worried about lack of lighting at night because the park is open late at night during the summer, or I guess all year. Upgrading bathrooms. This was something that we heard countless times. Over 60% of survey respondents and many people at all of the public events really stressed that the bathrooms, especially on the beach, but also near the parking lot, needed significant upgrades, possibly with an addition of outdoor showers for people who were using the beach, and then also a changing area for people to change their clothes. Just sort of like expanding and improving the bathroom situation. Another thing that we heard a lot about was flooding of the paths and just deterioration of the paths. So maybe resurfacing the paths, not with asphalt or concrete or anything like that, but maybe just with sort of like a stickier sort of gravel that won't be washed away in rain as easily. And then the last one is to renovate the building. It's just a really small one. That's a pretty big general improvement, but again, I think it was 93% of survey respondents and almost every single person at all of our public events really wanted to see that empty space put to use. And again, we heard that educational uses were sort of preferred, maybe increasing the number of facilities that sell food, maybe coffee, maybe ice cream, something like that. So renovating the buildings, it's a big priority.
Okay, and then our final goal is to expand and improve amenities. And the idea behind this goal is to capitalize on the existing park amenities and then expand them to capture some of what we heard repeatedly from the park stakeholders. So to expand and improve the amenities, we recommend providing food options that are healthy, affordable, and varied, allowing for mobile food vendors who can cater to early morning dog walkers in the off-season, non-beachgoers in the summer season, or others who may be using the park and not wanting to have to go into a restaurant and sit down for food. Extending the operating season of the restaurant so that the view can be enjoyed throughout the year. We know that this requires winterizing the building, but we hope that some sort of conservancy model can help to raise funding for this. Renting out beach chairs, umbrellas, and other equipment for a couple of reasons. One is that we think that it would open up the possibility for fewer people to drive if they don't have to bring equipment with them. We heard that a couple of times. And we also think that it will help diversify the revenue streams for the park. Building a playground, we know that this has been controversial in the past, but we have heard that a lot of times that people want a designated space for kids to play without introducing ball fields or other highly active forms of recreation. Building on the success of the concert series from previous summers and increasing the number and type of musical events at the park. Developing local partnerships with gyms and yoga studios to enable classes in the park during the summer season and in the warmer months of the off season. And then, as Colin mentioned, repurposing the administrative building for an educational use, not necessarily a school, but something to bring activity to the park during the off season, increasing awareness about the park's natural resources and avoiding a profit-generating commercial use in that building. And then finally, setting up free Wi-Fi, which is becoming sort of an industry standard in a lot of parks all over the place. So with that, that's all of the goals and recommendations that we have. We want to open it up for a few minutes for questions. I don't know how much time we have, but.
Well, the meeting's about to end, so anyway.
Okay. So all night.
I just wanted to thank you. This is a really I think everybody is appreciative of the work that you're doing, and it's useful work because you may not realize it, but we're already starting to work on some of the things that you have suggested. For the benefit of everybody here, we have already engaged Lisa Easton, our park architect, to start some preliminary review. And I know that that was high on your list. Debbie has been working to get some upgrading in terms of how we make the reservations, things like that. So you're focusing us in a direction that I think we wanted to go anyway, and it gives us a chance to just pinpoint the goals and expand that even more. So I wanted to thank you and throw it open to everybody else.
And I echo Mr. Zuckerman there. Thank you for your efforts. It's really, I think it was really great and well received. My question is, how and when will this final report be accessible to the public?
So our final report is going to be, we're submitting it the 28th of this month. So we're going to be submitting it to the town of Rye. If I'm sure it's going to be publicly accessible. You can probably find it on the Rye Town website.
So it will be through the town, we'll be able to access,
Well,
We'll
through
put
the
it on the, we'll
commission.
put it on the town park website.
Yeah, it'll be
the
on,
city
yeah, it'll be on the
website.
same, the town had to be the applicant, so that's the name, but it'll be on the commission website, absolutely.
I'm so thrilled that you brought up sort of the vulnerability of the park to extreme weather, because the infrastructure is aging immensely. But it does have a gorgeous, it's historical. I mean, it really is that early 20th century architecture that sort of meshes in with the landscape and just makes it absolutely stunning. Do you guys have any suggestions as far as keeping the architecture sort of tied in, historical designations, et cetera?
Before we go on, please, if you're going to speak, state your name and the community you're from. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm Lindsay Jackson, I'm from Rhinebeck. I mean, I'm fascinated with the idea of protecting it, 'cause I always said, even during the campaign, I said, we're one major storm away from losing these amazing buildings. And they're gorgeous and they're historical. And like I said, I would love to help in any way I can to preserve the buildings, but I don't want to change it because they are so unique.
Yeah, I think the general consensus of most of our stakeholder outreach efforts, from the survey respondents to the public forum participants to the interviews that we've conducted, echo that sentiment, and they do have an appreciation for the architecture, like the style and the history behind it, and they do, I think, that's why one of our recommendations is a conservancy for that would focus on historic restoration and not necessarily anything but that.
And in addition to that, I mean, the 11 buildings that contribute to the historical significance of the site cannot be changed, in a very significant way.
Can't be torn down.
The architecture itself, the style of the architecture has to be preserved. So if there's any work going to be done on it, if they can't be just torn down
And I guess she's our granite guru, so to speak. As far as availability with the historic designation, is that more helpful as far as getting grants and funding?
That was helpful when those were funded.
Yeah. I know.
Randy Robinowitz from Rhinebeck. My question is, I loved everything that you had to say in terms of all your points, but I would really love if at the conclusion of your report, you gave us the top 10 things that you felt needed to be done. Like, for instance, I never considered the state of the seawall. I mean, that's a very important part is the environmental impact. So in your mind, I mean, everybody wants to refurbish and refinish and make the buildings more lovely, but that's really a big deal. So in terms of a practicality, what's the top 10 things that the commission should do?
Are you asking for the low-hanging fruit or the most important things?
I think the most important things. I guess you could have a little thing, well, this one is easy, this one's hard, or you could have it harder and easier. But I just think if the just maintaining the park is huge, just environmentally, it's gonna wash away.
So at the end of the report, you'll see that we're going to have a sort of an action plan, which is going to identify some combination of these low-hanging kind of, more trash cans. Seems like a relatively low-hanging thing that can be done in the park. Obviously, building upgrades is a not easy thing to do, but seems pretty high priority from what we've heard from stakeholders. So the action plan will lay out sort of a general timeline, 3 years, 5 years, something like that, and we'll identify these key priorities and then the sort of easy to accomplish strategies.
The Todd, Sandy Sandberg from Rhine. Seems like the Todd Point is a really good model to learn more about and replicate, and because it's so close to home, and they've obviously done a really good job of securing funds and making nice upgrades. Has there been any communication between Rye and Todd's Point, or any meetings to kind of brainstorm and learn from there? Or you just kind of found them online as a good model, and, or did you go there or visit it, or, I'm just curious.
So most of the research that we did was through, online, but we did look at the Conservancy website and their mission and their vision, and we thought that, we just found it, and we thought that because of its close proximity to Rytown Park, as well as what they've done, and like you said, like their success, that's how we identified it as a case study for the park. But I don't believe that Rytown Park and Todd's Point have
No, we have not yet, but I guarantee you that we will. Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons this is so beneficial. I never would have thought of it, and I think this is a great idea.
We also got the name of the park, Todd's Point, from the public meeting. So many people voiced their preference, actually, for beaches in Connecticut.
Yeah.
And they said that the beaches in Connecticut, they're doing it right. Look at Todd's Point Point's doing it right. So that's actually how we came across Todd's Point, from everyone giving us feedback.
And to add on to that, we interviewed an employee of the Fairmount Park Conservancy, which is a conservancy like on a much larger scale than the Todd's Point. So we did have, some conversations with someone who's professionally, connected to a conservancy.
Joe?
I really think this is excellent. Joe Porter, City of Rye. I think this is fantastic. I was so delighted when Debbie found you all, or you found her, or however it went.
Helen Gates, thank you, Helen.
Yes. You're right on, and I've been observing this for the last few years, and the notion that Rytown Park, and Children's Museum, and Playland, and Edith Reed are so different but so together. And you've mentioned a series of things: transportation, historic resources, resiliency, the ecosystem, cultural resources, and if there could be just a simple forum to each one of those places is dealing with historic resources, resiliency, all of the things you mentioned. And if there was just a simple mechanism to get quickly down on paper what a master plan for the entire area might be, I think the four entities would find out that they have a lot in common. And for example, the seawall. There are resources available now to look at resiliency comprehensively. And so I think that thinking together might expand everybody's idea of what's possible and access to resources.
Hi, my name is Nancy Vincent, and I reside in the city of Rye. I'd like to address two topics. Going back to Todd's Point, I'm a frequent walker at Todd's Point, and I love it. And I'm at our Rytown Park many days a week. The Todd's Point Park partners with, and people may not know this, they partner with the Bruce Museum, all right? So open and expand your mind to museums and community colleges and other, academic institutions. And they also partner with Audubon in Greenwich. So, here, we're encouraging education and passive usage. So I just want to toss that out there to the commission so they think in very broad terms of use. Secondly, I'd like to address again the condition, the horrible deteriorated condition of the historic buildings that make up our park. And you spoke of that you're, already addressing and acting on some of the recommendations that have been made in this report. And because these buildings are, crumbling before our eyes, is this something that you're working on preemptively, from a budgeting standpoint, to start setting aside funds for the restoration, of these buildings? It's something that, cannot be, wait, we can't wait any longer. The stucco is just, peeling off those, brick understructures. So I'd like to know if you are, if this is on your hit list.
We signed an agreement with Lisa Easton, who, if you'll recall, did the roof on the administration building. She has intimate knowledge of the park and knows everything that's going on with it. I was out there with her, Debbie and Terry, last Tuesday, and she will have a preliminary report hopefully next month as to the ideas that we need to go forward. We know that there's a lot of work. I've also already spoken with our two state representatives, Steve Otis and George Latimer, to start the ball rolling to see what funds are available to help us. Because basically, when you say set funds aside, there aren't any funds to set aside. Basically, the funds that come in from both from the restaurant and the beach admissions and the parking go for operating expenses. The city of Rye and the town of Rye have to pay for the capital improvements, and that'll be done through the bonding mechanism if the amount of money is substantial. And frankly, we're probably talking about millions. All right. The main bathhouse is in deplorable condition. It has not only been left to deteriorate, but work has been done on it that made conditions worse, and that needs to be rectified. There were major leaks. I think we'll get into that with our park management report, or Debbie in her report. We'll talk about how, with the rains of last week, we had floods inside, a foot of water or so on the floor coming through the roof. So those things, we have both emergency conditions to rectify and long-term work. But we are working on all of these. None of this is forgotten. This is a blueprint for action. The Capstone program has set a lot in motion, not just the fixing up of the buildings. Just as important is what uses do we want the park to perform for our residents and our park goers. There's a lot in this report that needs to be digested, and we will. But believe me, I don't think that this commission intends to let this be a report that sits on the shelf. I think that we're going to take it as an action step, and one by one, go through the things that need to be done. Some may not be practical, but many, many are. And I think that we're going to see over the next couple of years substantial improvements. One of my main imperatives is to improve accessibility, especially handicap accessibility. We have spoken about the middle ramp. I've also spoken to the engineers about the other two ramps in the park, and making when the buildings are done, all of the restrooms need to be made handicap accessible. And this is a top priority. And as part of Lisa's charge, we're going to look for code compliance items, not only building code, but accessibility code, to make sure that this park is accessible to all people of whatever abilities. So that is our goal. That is our mantra, if you will. That is what we're going to shoot for. Anybody else?
Peter Feynman, Portchester. On the subject of funding, I wanted to mention that the next REDC cycle is about to start. The first meeting is April 25th. And the director for the Mid-Hudson region lives in Portchester. So that may give us some home court advantage.
What is that? What is REDC?
Oh, Regional Economic Development Council. It's a program that's set up every year that awards $750 million or thereabouts to throughout the state for different agencies. The idea is everyone can apply through the same form, and then it's allocated out to the appropriate agency. So it could be parks, it could be art, it could be transportation, seawall, depending on what it is you want. So it's a common form. I think the Jay Heritage Center got $500,000 for.
Our grant writer is sitting right here.
Right.
I'm sure
I think
she's-
they got $500,000 for I forgot what.
The gardens, the gardens.
For the garden?
Gardens,
Yeah, the garden there.
renovation of
Right. So even if we can't get the millions you want, these can be done over a period of years.
Every dollar is a help.
Right, every dollar can help, and it can
And
help
you're
get
absolutely,
consultants
no, you're
or
absolutely correct.
planning.
This is not a one-shot thing.
Right,
This is
not a
not
one-shot
something that, oh, we're gonna apply for this, and every year, funds have to be applied for. And as the team has pointed out, this is a long-range goal. Not everything is going to happen in year one. And I think they were talking about 5 or 10 years at some point. I don't remember exactly what the.
We haven't listed that yet.
But the fact is that it may last beyond my term or the term of any of the other commissioners. But this is something that has to have at a minimum of a 5-year plan.
I just wanted to
And,
mention those
no,
costs.
thank you very much. Absolutely.
And the application would have to be in, I guess, by what, July, for the award in December.
Well, we already have the basic documents because of the things we've applied for, and we will be sure to look into that. And we don't want to let the term economic development scare us, because when we applied for a grant, there was some thought on the part of some people that were looking just at economic
For
development.
example, the New York Office of Parks issues awards through their process. We have historic buildings. Parks issues awards through that. You have programs you want to do related to art. So there are a lot of different ways you can go with it.
Great. Anybody else?
But I think before we get sort of grant crazy, and I think that's a great, we're jumping for duty, but the community also has to invest in it as well. And it's gotta be something for bonding. We can't just rely on sort of grant money.
Right. Well, we're going to have another conversation on May 21st. Our community conversation will take place, and I invite the Capstone team to come and enjoy the park on that day and enjoy the conversation. I know it's just another conversation. I don't, you may have already been graduated by then, I'm not sure. But if you want to, you're invited to come back and enjoy the day and the conversation.
Before you end, one of the things that the team told me, prep meetings for this, is that one of the questions in our survey was, would you be willing to contribute to the park? And over 50% of the respondents, 500 people, said yes. That, to me, is an invitation for a development program, the likes of which we haven't seen yet.
That's wonderful. Anyway, if nothing else.
Can I make a comment?
Of course, Rick.
As one of the non-elected officials up here. First of all, this was a terrific presentation. I think this does really give a roadmap for the Rye-Town Park Commission. I'm glad to see NYU is turning out such great students, since I spent a lot of money with my children there. So it's continued. I'm glad that maybe I, added a little fertilizer to your education, although you probably paid as much as I did. One of the things that was said that might be a little bit of a third rail in this room. There was a suggestion, and albeit being in a somewhat sensitive area as consultants, is the idea of having a committee of community members involved with this. I know for a long time, as a 30-year resident of the area, there aren't a lot of people, especially in my home community of Rye Brook, who know too much really about what the Rye Town Park Commission does. What they do know is that for the most part, they are all people who have been elected officials, and as the report said, also are tasked with doing many, many other things in their roles as supervisor of the town, councilwoman in Rye, the mayor of Portchester, the mayor of Rye Brook. I would like to see the suggestion of having community members who, in many ways, not only, I'm sure, will be willing to do the work that it takes, but also, in a very gentle way, would prod the commission to move along with the changes that they see in the park. It's easy for me to come in and sit in for the mayor of Rye Brook and make this suggestion and then not be here next time. But I will prod the mayor of Rye Brook to continue doing that. But I think you should strongly consider that suggestion.
Well, I think that we do have the Friends of Rye Town Park, and we have the Facebook group with Jamie Jensen and Russ Gold. I keep forgetting that. The Rye Town Park Alliance. So we do have people who are active and involved. And I think I speak for the other commissioners, we're open to suggestions and to discussion. We do meet here once a month, and we have public comment period, and I don't think anybody who's ever seen these meetings can say that there hasn't been a lot of comment on different subjects. But to formalize that in some way, I think we would all be open to that, because we know that the more information we get, the more community input we get, is beneficial for everybody. And that's why we have these community conversations, not only here, but we have in the setting of the park that we're going to have on May 21st. And it doesn't have to be just once a year. It could be more than once a year. But one of the things that we're trying to do is to make everything as transparent as possible. For those of you who may have seen it, we have a brand new website, and we're trying to make that as transparent as possible, so that there can be as much input and as much give and take between the commissioners and the public as possible. And nothing that we do is hidden from view, believe me. We wouldn't even want to do that, because the more input we get, the better it is. And Rick, since you've made this comment, I think that you should join the conversation and be part of it.
I'll have to check with my wife.
As well as Crawford Park. So, and Jamie?
Jamie Jensen, Tri-City. Why not take an action step now? If anyone in this group or anyone listening on TV would like to be more actively involved, it's very simple to request an invitation to be on the Rye Town Park Alliance Facebook page. We will more than likely hold a bunch of coffees. Maybe we'll probably only end up getting one done. But a coffee for core people that are really critically engaged before your meeting on May 21st, so that we can continue to be that nudge that we're supposed to be for you guys. So more than likely, we will probably be inviting people for a coffee, like we did last spring, right before the committee meeting. So stay tuned, and you can always private message either one of us through that Facebook page, Russ Cole or Jamie Jensen.
Thank you. And with that, let me thank you again. Do you have anything else you want to say? We're not going to kick you out that quickly.
I just want to say thank you so much. This has been a wonderful experience, and we'll be finishing the report in the next couple of weeks. And
do we get the grade, you guys? We get to give you that. How do you want to grade it, Debbie?
Only if you want to give us an A.
Advisor is sitting right here in the audience.
Why don't you stand
Something
up?
less than an A+. Excellent job.
Introduce yourself. Stand up. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, Mike Keene, NYU Wagner. I'm faculty advisor to these 4 outstanding master's students about to enter the world of urban planning in May, June. I know some of them are already actually working in the profession. I also wanted to point out that in addition to presenting tonight, the students were awarded or nominated, and will be presenting at the American Planning Association New York Metro chapter, along with 4 other planning schools in the New York area. It's very difficult. We have 6 capstone teams from which to elect to present at APA, and it's a challenge electing the best among greatness.
Group of students every year?
Yes.
We can draw?
Yes. Actually, I should plug that. We're always looking for exciting, compelling applications, which Debbie has submitted.
Just so that you're aware of it, we were so impressed by this that the town of Rye is applying for another capstone program for Crawford Park. So we are looking forward to engaging in that as well. All right. Now we have an agenda. I'm going to skip down. I have a request to bring the proposal from Soul Riders forward. Can we do that? Is there any objection? And then Al will get to you. Soul Riders? Yes. See how easy that was?
Findley, and I am the Director of Programs and Events for Soul Riders. And I'm also here with Monica Brenner, who is leading our 10-year anniversary activities, and Sandy Sandberg, who is the founder of Soul Riders. And on behalf of us and our entire organization, thank you so much to Ryetown Park Commission, Friends of Ryetown Park, the Park Department, everyone who's been involved in this proposal. We're really looking forward to working on this project together. 2017 is an exciting year for Soul Riders. It marks our 10th anniversary. Soul Riders, for those of you who may not be familiar with us, we're a volunteer-driven organization, and we are based here in Rye. And we provide nurturing, comforting, special services for anyone in our community affected by cancer, by any type of cancer. And we're unique in our organization in that we provide these services and resources in both breadth and depth. In breadth, by touching thousands of people through our grant program, providing financial assistance to local cancer-related organizations such as the Livestrong program at the Y, the Open Door Medical Center in Port Chester, Gilda's Club of Westchester, Cancer Support Team, Support Connection. And then we also have personal touches where we touch hundreds of people through our own unique programs, such as the Wig Exchange, where we provide wigs free of charge to women who have lost their hair. And the magic of those programs are our client coordinators. These are women who have lost their hair. They have been through cancer treatments. They have walked this journey. And they meet one-on-one with our clients, and no one can speak to that story better than they can. We also have our Mondays with Soul Riders program, where we open the beauty bar in Port Chester one Monday a month, and we provide complimentary services to anyone undergoing cancer treatments. And on the surface, sounds a little somewhat silly. You go in for salon services while you're going through cancer treatments. But these women walk in as strangers through different various areas of their treatment. Some are on the end of their treatment, some are in the middle, some are just beginning. And like I said, they all come in as strangers, and they meet women who have been through their journey, they meet survivors, and somehow through the course of those couple of hours, receiving a massage, a chemo cut, getting ready to lose their hair, massage or reflexology or even a manicure, they have found support and they have found hope, and they leave with lifelong friends and support. The opportunity to provide these programs to our community is thanks to the unbelievable support we have received from not only Rye, but Harrison, Port Chester, Mamaroneck, Rye-Neck, and beyond. And it's thanks to the donation of time, talent, treasure, and even hair that Soul Riders has achieved the growth and sustainability we have. So now it's our time to thank you, to thank our community. So this September, we would like to hold a celebration event on September 17th at Rytown Park in the pavilions. We'd like to have food there, some music from some local bands. We'd like all of our guests, we'll invite them to hold hands and have an aerial photograph taken with everyone holding up signs that spell S-O-L-E to S-O-U-L to show the progression and evolution of our organization. And on that day, we'd also like to unveil our sustainable gift that we'd like to give to the community. We would like to install a labyrinth in Rytown Park. And thanks to the involvement with the park department, with Bill Lawyer knowing this park better probably than any of us, we've located an area towards the corner of Dearborn and Forest Avenue. So if you're looking towards the water, if you go into the pedestrian entrance just past Dearborn, there's this beautiful area of trees. It's just perfect for a 25-foot diameter labyrinth. For those of you who may not really know what a labyrinth is, it is flat on the ground. It is like a maze, but unlike a maze, which is full of tricks, and you can get lost in a maze, you cannot get lost in a labyrinth. A labyrinth, there is just one way to get to the center, and you take the same way back. You cannot get lost. But what you do lose, you lose your fears, you lose your worries, you lose your heavy sense of obligations. But what you gain is a peaceful sense of calm. You walk in, and all of a sudden, your left brain gets shut off, and your right brain comes alive. And that's where you can absorb the beauty of our park, the beauty of who you're with. You may be by yourself in a contemplative state. You may be with some friends. You may be there celebrating an event. You may be there mourning a friend. Who knows? But this area in our park is just, it's perfect for this labyrinth. The design that we have chosen is in the agenda, and it's very easily maintained. It's very flat, so in terms of accessibility, there are no bumps. It would be stone dust, and then surrounding the labyrinth would be an apron of brick pavers. We would like to do a program with those brick pavers similar to what the Rye Free Reading Room did, which is offering the community an opportunity for themselves to have a personal part of this gift. And these bricks can be purchased and then engraved. They can be in honor of someone. They can be to commemorate the birth of a child, a wedding anniversary, or even include an inspirational quote. This is a quiet, contemplative area that supports our mission. One of our most successful programs is our Soul Strong program for survivors. And one of the parts of the program is teaching survivors meditation and the benefits of meditation. Mindfulness right now is being taught in many of our school districts. I wish I could sit in on some of those. This is my school district, and I know it's being taught here. And I've seen the benefits to our children of that. This presentation talked about having yoga. Soul Riders actually had yoga at the beach, at the pavilion last fall, but why not do yoga around here? The other thing is I've been speaking with Friends of Rytown Park for their beautiful benches. I would love to install a bench there at the labyrinth as well. Maintenance would be very simple. It would be something that Soul Riders would take on. It would be probably a once a year putting in more of that stone dust. We have plenty of teens that would be happy to rack up a few community service hours doing that. But we're really excited about this. I hope that some of this information has made you excited as well, and I really see it as a project that the entire community can get behind. So again, I thank you so much, and if anyone has any questions about this project or Soul Riders in general, I'm happy to answer them. Yes.
I think that this is a wonderful idea. I think it fits in with the mission of the park, which is peace, contemplation, and an appreciation of nature. And I am 100% in support of this idea.
Thank you so much.
Anybody else?
That's great.
Thank you so much for coming. Soul Riders is a truly amazing organization, starting with a group of women that got together and ran the Walk the Avon Breast Cancer Walk over 10 years ago, and now look what it's become. So you guys are really impressive, and thank you for wanting to give back to the community. We appreciate all that you've done for people in the community, and I know there's a lot of you have a lot of volunteers, which is really tremendous. So thank you so much for this, and I'm totally in support of it. Joe Sack is also in support of it, who's not here. So anyway, do we have to vote on this? What do we have to do?
Motion in a second?
Are we all, is everyone, the Friends of the Park, everyone's okay with this location? I don't want to be non-transparent? How's that? Where's the stakeholders?
You've worked with Bill,
We don't have a master plan for the park yet, but
I said that I think it's a great idea, but the commission needs to decide. I know that they sent out information in advance so that you would be familiar with it.
the labyrinth is fine. I was talking about the location as proposed. Has it met with any park users or anybody who has thoughts about that area not being a good idea?
To be honest with you, I was waiting to see what happened in the city before. I really don't know if anybody would have any objections or not at this point.
Well, everybody has an objection.
Kind of
You know, the question is, yeah, yeah, no,
as much,
I know.
which
That's
is-
just
which is good.
Because, I've been living.
There's no utilities underneath there that we have a problem with, that kind of stuff. I mean, I'd hate to see it get installed and then, Murphy's Law, we have something underneath there that we didn't know about.
Well, they figured out, they know the topography. There's a lot of rock outcroppings there.
Okay.
So they're familiar with what you have to do. I think they're talking about 6 to 8 inches or something like that.
No, I know. But there's a lot of utilities under the park.
I think
I'm just saying that I don't have a problem with the
Why
labyrinth as a
don't-
location.
Why don't we
Should be
approve this in
decided.
concept?
Yeah,
think
that's what I'm getting at.
I think that before the actual construction starts, you're gonna have to dig underneath and see what's there. If there are any utility lines, for example, or,
There is a street light not too far.
well, that has to be looked at. We're approving this in concept, okay?
Now, the company, you might want to say a couple words about the company.
Right, they've been in business for 22 years. They do come out, we can certainly have them come out and do a more substantial survey of the area. He did recognize the bedrock as well as the roots. He was very aware and very concerned about the roots they have, and I don't remember, I apologize, the name, but they have construction materials that actually take care of the roots, so the roots would not come up and disturb the labyrinth. I mean, they are part of nature, they do this, but we can certainly go back and get more.
Right, we want to be very careful that we're not going to injure the root structures of the trees in the area. Okay? So let's approve this in concept. May I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Does anybody from the public want to comment now?
Could I have a motion and a second first?
So moved.
Second.
Any comment from the public?
I think it's absolutely wonderful, and I can't, Jamie Jensen, can't tell you how sort of it warms my heart to see you all here and wanting to do this. And I will so be at that party. I did have one question. That you said something very, very interesting in the proposal, which I hadn't seen, about what you see when you're walking. And I was trying to understand where it is. I'm a big person with vistas. Can you see any of the water from where it is? Okay, you can. All right. Because I would want you to be able to see the water.
Well, I don't think you can. And the thing is, the places where you would see water are the places that are most heavily used by the public. And I think one of the points of this is that it needs to be a certain quietness for it to really function as a labyrinth.
I don't mean to bring up a big discussion. I just wanted to make sure that question was out there, because I think that's an important thing to contemplate.
I think Russ Gold, I think Soul Riders has agreed that that they're happy with this spot too, so I don't see, it's like, a solution looking for a problem. I think we're okay here, right?
I think we're okay.
It's okay with me.
Okay? Yes, sir.
I noticed in the photograph, you have a bench here. Would it be possible to put benches around? We're talking about seating earlier. And I think if you have a child or a grandchild who wants to do this,
Yes, we
and you want to sit around and observe while they're doing it, so it would be nice contemplative addition, if you can have benches.
Yes, that's what we had discussed with the benches that are provided by the Friends of Rytown Park, the sustainable benches, and they're large where you can actually have. Yeah, we have many pieces of this puzzle that we'd like to put together, which is why we were here, hoping that we could just jump off. So we'll jump off tomorrow and get back with some more information for you on the installation.
Vicki Farrington, Friends of Rytown Park.
Sure.
Is it possible for you to stake out somehow, show where this will be located? I mean, you know, you can see it on paper, but when you actually get there, I think that would be helpful to everybody.
Good idea, I recommend.
Good idea. Excellent. All right. Thank you, Leslie. Okay. Al, you're up. Presentation from Ocean Grill.
How you doing? My name is Al Chatelli, owner of the Ocean Grill. We're the new restaurant opened up on, took over the old Seaside Johnny's. I sent over a copy of the menu. I don't know if everybody got a chance to take a look at it.
I'm ready to
It
eat
looks
now.
great, so
I'm ready to eat now.
It's ready to eat. We're ready to go.
I took the menus off your website,
Mhm.
Because the packet was prepared a couple days ago. I hope that that's the same menus that you sent over.
It should be, yes.
Okay,
You just
good.
changed a few things around, but yes. Just in the order that they were in, you know. So, we try to be, you know, competitive. We try to lower some of the prices to be more affordable. And I think the quality of the food you're gonna find totally different than you've had before. Nothing knocking in, but we're gonna be basing it a lot on fresh foods, not so much the fried. That's what I heard from the people in the community, that they really didn't like to go there because everything was fried, you know. So, we're gonna stick with a lot of the fresh foods. Also, a couple things that were brought up before. We are gonna have a coffee and a cafe in the mornings. Because one thing, I've been out there every day pretty much, and people walking by every single day coming by, they want to be able to get a cup of coffee and a Danish, a butter roll, or bagel. We're going to offer that at reasonable prices, like, you know, like you would at any other Dunkin' Donuts type of thing. It's something that people can utilize it, you know. And eventually we like to get into like breakfast on the weekends, you know, breakfast on the beach type of thing, you know. So that's what we're going to try to do. We have changes coming in. We have a pizza oven being delivered next week, a brick oven pizza out on the deck. We're trying to make it so the community can utilize it, not only just in the restaurant, but people that are walking by. Because those are the people that we're trying to, you know, keep happy, if you want to say that. You know, they come by, they want something affordable and something that they just want, maybe have an ice cream or a cup of coffee, espresso. We're going to have a full bakery there. You know, you want a cannoli and a cappuccino. It's all going to be accessible to people. We'll have some high tops when you first come in, and we can utilize some of the outside if you want to just have a cup of coffee or something like that. The other thing, too, is if we are going forward with it and we do RFP, we would like to stay open all year round as much as we can. I see a lot of, you know, opportunity there. You know, if you have good food, people will come, and that's what I feel. So I stand by our restaurant. So I think that if we do get awarded in the RFP, that we will open all year round. That was two of the things that were brought up from the students from NYU. You wanted to take a look at the uniform shirts. There's basic. There can be different colors probably, but just basically, you know, a polo with our logo on it, Ocean Grill.
What is it? A fish.
A fish. Fish. Yeah, the same as on the menu. I don't know if it came out on there. It's the same type of thing.
You showed it to us last time.
Yeah, I showed it to you last time. So this is the same thing. This is what some of the menu's gonna look like, lunch and dinner menu.
Did you correct the spelling?
Yes, we did. It should have been anyway. As far as where we're at now, we're ready to probably open up downstairs in the next week or so. On Sunday, the beach was packed, you know, on Easter Sunday, and we see opportunity there. Yeah, so we're gonna try to open up that downstairs.
Are you doing, no, you were doing like a friends and family kind of thing on the 29th?
We're trying to set it up. I think it's 28th or 29th. We're waiting to get our liquor license and our health department certificate. So we have an inspection coming up from the health department first, and then the liquor license, it could be any day now. We're just waiting for the SLA to get back to us and say we're, you know, approved. So as soon as we get that, we'll send an invitation out to everybody to come out and for the opening. But I just want to have that secured first. Like I said, downstairs beach part, the Nathan's part will be ready to go probably next week.
Oh, 'cause it's still on the beach. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Perfect.
if I try to get it done this week, if the health department, you know, cooperates, I'll try to get it done this week.
I was in there a couple of times, and it looks like the construction's going along really well.
Yeah, we ran into some problems, as you know, as I reported, a few things here and there, but besides that, everything, we cleaned that thing from top to bottom. I mean, It's unbelievable. We painted the outside railings. We have the patio furniture coming in this week, the awnings coming in this week, everything's coming in this week. So we're ready to rock and roll, ready to go.
Well, let's approve his menus.
So
Motion?
moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do you have a senior one thing I wanted to ask, do you have, Al?
Yes.
Do you have senior citizen pricing, just curious? 'Cause you didn't have
We
it
didn't put
yet.
anything in there as of yet, no. As of right
Really?
now, it's not a bad
Did you
idea, I never
consider
thought
that?
about it.
'Cause we do have a lot of seniors that frequent the park. and-
Right. That's a good idea, and actually, you know what, I never even thought of that. Yeah, there you go. I mean, we're gonna extend happy hour, I know that, an extra hour, because that's what, all the residents came by to say, they want happy hour longer, so. So we're gonna do that, and for the Soul Riders, the lady who gave that presentation, I'd like to donate the food that day, that you're having that event over in the pavilion, as part of working together with you guys. Because you do, it's great work with you guys do. So if I can help out in any way, we'll partner up and, exactly, whatever you need. I think it's great what you guys do.
Thank you, Al.
If anybody has any questions? Oh, we mentioned about doing, I also have like an entertainment company. We always threw the idea around about doing some sort of concerts in the park. And we don't want to ruffle any feathers, but it's something that we need to throw out there later on, if you guys should just think about it.
You
And
can come by and get a pizza and eat our pizza.
Goldie's got the concerts. One who's gonna.
it's just, I know there's a 10 o'clock ordinance, all that, but it's just an idea to throw out there later on. If you want to try to figure ways to utilize the park better and, you know,
I think it's a great
We were
idea.
thinking Friday nights.
Yeah.
Al and I talked about it, and he has a stage, and we would do it out in the middle of the park, facing the water. He has, some nice, tribute band.
I have like the Nerds. I use it at all. I do at Putnam County Golf Course. I have the Nerds. I have Chalet de Law. I have all these different bands that come, and we get over there like over 1,000 people that attend these events.
I think it's great.
It's just a matter of, you don't want the neighbors to get upset.
No,
So,
as long as we stay within the Rye City noise ordinance, I think it's wonderful. Right.
just for a conversation for later on.
Okay, no,
Okay.
great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Al. All right,
Yes.
Yeah, we did. Unanimous.
I made a motion.
Well, we have, Debbie, you are going to do a report on the conditions of the park buildings, and then Terry, the management report. Let's keep them both short. Yours is written already.
What else do we have to vote on?
Uh,
Do we have to vote on 13?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was supposed to leave at 7 o'clock. and it's
Okay,
now
I'll tell you, let's hold off. We have two, let's back up then. We need to vote on the Rye Free Reading Room and the point of sale consultant. Let's do the Rye Free Reading Room first.
I'm Chris Shoemaker, the director of the Rye Free Reading Room. Last summer, we were thrilled to be able to offer a story time series at one of the seaside pavilions. We had almost 350 kids and families come through that. We had stories about beaches and summer, and every one of the events ended with a bubble party, which the toddlers enjoyed a lot. And so we wanted to bring that back to the park for this summer. The dates are July 11th, 18th, and 25th, and August 5th, 12th, 19th, and 26th. We were asking the park for permission to use one of the pavilions and for a discounted parking rate during the day from 9:30 a.m. until 10:15 a.m. for the people who are driving in.
This is what we did last year, right? The discounted rate?
Yes.
Any
Sounds
comment,
good.
any comment from the commissioners?
It's a Tuesday morning.
Tuesday.
Oh, Tuesdays.
Comment from the commission?
Bill, any problems next
No, I
year?
just want to say that this is a great example of how we can work with community
Right.
groups and not duplicate, but actually fill in a niche. It's very quiet, the park opens at 9, but not much is happening. So much later, so here you have an opportunity for people to come, enjoy it if they want to stay on and go to the beach, they can, but it's just worked really well last year, even when the weather was not completely perfect, because we were able to use the pavilion, worked out pretty well.
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Chris.
That was quick. Let's do the resolution to engage the point of sale consultant, Mr. Lazarus. Debbie, you want to explain what this is about?
Yes, there would be no revenue without our point-of-sale software system, and the man that makes it go is Mike Lazarus. We like Mike.
Okay, may,
This is the new mic, right? Because there was some problems with the old mic.
This is the reborn Mike.
all right. Motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second?
I'll
Jean?
second the motion.
Jean already seconded.
Oh.
Softly? Softly?
Yeah, I'm not trying to.
Further discussion?
My authority.
If not, let's have a roll call on this since we're spending money.
Commissioner Salanitro?
Yes.
Acting Commissioner Ceccarelli?
Yes.
Commissioner Killian?
Yes.
Acting Commissioner Buzin?
Abstain.
President Zuckerman?
He just doesn't know the details.
He doesn't know the details.
There's a lot that's happened before this. We couldn't.
Disingenuous for me to vote on someone I don't know.
Yes. Julie, you have to go? Thank you. Thank you for staying overtime. Appreciate it.
Thanks to everyone that came to.
All right, report regarding the conditions of the park buildings. Deb?
Yes. Quickly, this was a rough winter on our park, to say the least. I've basically given a greatest hits I'm about to talk about. We're taking them one at a time. We had a broken sewer pipe last week in the parking lot. We had a geyser on April 12th. It's been repaired on an emergency basis. The same company, while they were there, jetted out the storm drain that was compacted with sediment and roots running from the duck pond to the sound. It is now flowing, and the pooling that had formed in between is now receding, I understand. I want to send a special thank you to the City of Rye, Department of Public Works, and Rybrook Department of Public Works, both of which had attempted to blow out the pipe and were not able to do so. I would say that the City of Rye's had some trouble with their equipment. We have a stone bridge that had a recurring hole in the asphalt that went straight through, and thanks to Commissioner Salanitro, that has been repaired. We still have a broken storm pipe in the parking lot. We have 2 bids in to repair that. We're waiting for a third. The Dearborn stairs and ramp have crumbled. They will be repaired by the park staff. Our 1909 administration building, a chunk of stucco fell off this winter, and as a result, we have roped off an area directly in front of that area so that nobody gets hurt should that happen again. During the rainstorm on April 6th, water came through the cashier captain's office ceiling, and we've since discovered that that was a matter of cleaning out the gutters, and so that's taken care of, and hopefully the cashier captain's office is drying out and usable. The 1929 bathhouse, we have a report from 2012 that was circulated to the commissioners detailing damage and the poor state of the roof. During the last rainstorm, actually when park staff reported for duty the first week of April, they discovered a significant amount of water in the security office. We have been in touch with our insurance company. They sent out the same inspectors, and we are awaiting a subsequent report about the state of our roofs. In the meantime, we have a refurbish, that's not the word, a company that fixes things after the storm happens. Thank you, Restoration Company. Installed blowers there to dry out the space quickly. That's been done. Architect Lisa Easton was out at the park on Tuesday, April 11th with Lou Nieto, who was the contractor who handled the roof replacement several years ago. Together with Gary Zuckerman and park staff, they thoroughly reviewed the facilities, the administration building, and the bathhouse. We were up in the belfry of the administration towers, taking a really close look. They will be back.
Pigeon poop.
Over the pigeon poop, not through. It's not. Yes, I'm having the same company come back and give us an estimate for removing the pigeon poop. Ms. Easton and Mr. Nieto will be back in the next week or two with equipment to do soundings on both buildings and remove loose tiles and stucco. It's going to look worse before it looks better, but they're going to remove anything that could fall down on somebody. And then they will give us a thorough report on the assessment of our structures.
Also on that, Debbie, I know that because we were concerned about the employees and their health and the public, I think we also authorized, as part of the cleanup and the drying out of all the dampness, also to do some air quality testing to make sure that everyone would be safe entering that area. So, just tell
I
that.
think the long and the short of that is that those buildings do need a lot of work. Tara, park management report?
They don't like me anymore.
We're here for you, Terry.
Okay. As Gary said, our senior staff, with the exception of the lifeguard captain, reported back to start the season on April 3rd. I conducted a staff meeting to go over all the essential changes that are going on and the expectations of the park this year. We had a really beautiful day on Tuesday and on Sunday. Tuesday, we actually had to close the parking lot twice because we weren't able to go to the back. So we closed the parking lot twice and kept everybody safe. We had security on staff on Sunday, making sure that the parking lot, was accessible to everyone, and if it got too busy, they were going to close it as we did on Tuesday. As far as park maintenance, our maintenance staff, there's 7 people that are, by the end of this week, will be on staff. And they've begun their preseason startup of what needs to get done to have the park open. The volunteers that came and did the maintenance, I have to give a big kudos to Bill and Russ. I know you guys were out there freezing on some days, and I really appreciate that the volunteers did come and help clean the beach. And I just want to thank Bill for organizing that. I think it was a great thing. Just sorry I wasn't out there to help you the other day.
Let me just interrupt you a second. I think the beach looked absolutely great. I think it's in terrific shape considering the time of the year that it is. And we are expecting new sand, correct?
Yes, first week of May.
First week of May. 450 tons of new, clean sand. And I just wanted to say again, Terry, thank you to the staff, and especially on Sunday, Easter Sunday, when everybody was supposed to be off. And we realized after the Tuesday crowd that, my God, Sunday might be packed. And the staff some of the staff, Terry got them to come in, did a great job, and it was a wonderful Sunday for everybody. Thank you.
You all have this report, but I'm just going to make a few notes. As far as staff, maintenance will be up to 7. They're looking for 4 more. Security, I believe we're looking for 1 or 2 more people, and we're fully staffed. Same with cashiers. Parking attendants, I believe we need 3 more. Lifeguards, we've gotten a lot of applications. A lot of people are coming back. So hopefully we're going to be good with them because of this year's extending their time to be on duty till dusk. I've had a meeting with the senior lifeguards, and basically we're going to have an EMT, a senior guard, and some lifeguards on duty until dusk as part of the new schedule. As of yesterday, I have one security guard on duty day and night. We are locking the beach at dusk at this point. So when security leaves, when it gets dark, the security guard that's on at night will be locking the gate. It'll be open first thing in the morning. We will begin charging for preseason parking as of yesterday, as of Monday. Yeah, that was yesterday. Only weather dependent. You know, we always use 68 degrees as our point. If it's going to be anything lower than that, like today, I could tell you there were 13 cars in the parking lot. So, yeah.
In regards to that, there's a sign outside people when they come in, so they know.
There's actually 2 signs in sandwich boards saying effective April 17th. These are the charges, and they go through May 25th. And then we have the sign posted on the side of the parking booth that says the prices also, pre-season parking. So those are out. Those were out from last week. I'm working on the signs for the new signs for the new rates to go in the sandwich boards and on the booths. We're looking for with, you know, just everybody just trying to do what they need to do to get the beach open. Our new network was installed at the end of March, which now separates our online POS system from anything else we do. We've installed new cameras. So we have 3 new cameras. One is very useful. It's actually panoramic, and it scans the whole parking lot.
You demoed it.
I demoed it. And the big plus to this is that all senior staff actually has the application on our phones. So on Sunday, even though I was busy cooking and having people over, I was able to monitor what was going on in the parking lot the whole day and keep in touch with the security guard. That's a big help. As far the permit letters were mailed last week. I could tell you we have 2 stacks this big that came yesterday and today, so we'll start processing those. Our online processing of permits is moving ahead. The actual screen design and the input was developed, and revisions are being made on it, and our test data transmissions will probably start next week. Our permit office is opening May 3rd, and will be open Wednesday to Sunday from 9 to 3. Bill's working with the Rye Art Center on a new sculpture that may be installed the end of September. And Carpet Trends covered the cost of our movie. We received a $2,000 grant from TD Bank that they're going to actually sponsor 2 concerts on a Tuesday night concert series. Atria gave us $1,000 for Shakespeare, and Steel Point Acupuncture gave us $500. So we're moving ahead on that. Our website is new. I actually worked with Sarah Suma in the office, and I made some changes to update certain things that were, not to point, so made it a little clearer. We'll continue to do that. And I have to tell you, I'm really excited about working with Al and his staff at Ocean Grill. And I'd like to be able to go ahead and work with him on those concert series.
That's great.
That we'd like to start, right after 4th of July.
That's wonderful.
So I think that'll be a big plus to our park. It'll bring a lot of people. And, I had the idea originally, and now Al just went with it, and he's taken over. Any questions?
Terry, thank you so much. Great report. Terrific. The Beach Cleanup Volunteer Program.
I'll be
I
very
think-
brief because you've already heard about it, but I also want to thank Russ for all his efforts. He was a tough taskmaster, throughout there, we got to pick up that litter, and he weighed it, measured it. I think we were actually really surprised at how much litter there is, and we didn't mess with the natural, the seaweed and things, but in fact, we're just focusing on garbage and litter, things that are recyclable, and I think the biggest one was somewhere around 30 gallons or something.
I figured that over the course of the winter, about 100 gallons of water, mostly small bits of plastic and some other detritus, but about 100 gallons.
Yeah. So I have a list of all the volunteers, and I thought is to give out some kind of a certificate of appreciation, which I'm going to be working on. And if anybody has any thoughts for other possible volunteer activities, we have to work it out so that it's not, getting in the way of what the paid staff is doing. But I'm open to suggestions. Otherwise, we'll just be starting up again probably in October. If you're going to look that far ahead.
Yeah, we have to. Always good to look far ahead. Get the volunteers now, community service, right? Good. Public comment on non-agenda items. Do we have members of the public who wish to speak? I think everybody's spoken out. If not, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Can I have one question? I meant to ask Al, Debbie, can you ask him, do you think he'll be able to provide free Wi-Fi service in the restaurant? And can you ask him that? It was one of the comments that
I know, actually.
seems
after
kind of
we talk to
basic.
Debbie, I'd like to get free Wi-Fi service in the whole park.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think we should look into that.
I'll give you the motion now if you want it. Motion to
Wait.
adjourn?
Do any of the commissioners have any other comments? Rick, Jean?
No, just an excellent presentation by everybody that gave a presentation. The Capstone Group was terrific, and it's good to see a good team that works together. I'm on the Board of Trustees in Portchester, and it's like these two hands fighting all the time, and I'm one body, but the hands fight. So, but it's good to see a team that works together to accomplish excellent things. It was a terrific presentation. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you, Jean.
thank you.
Thank you for coming. Rick, thank you for coming.
Larry, thank you for coming.
I'm always here. Motion, hold it, wait. Motion?
I
Motion?
offered the motion, yes.
Jean seconds, all in favor? Thank you. Meeting adjourned.